Story 1.
Am I the asshole for not wanting to close the relationship after my wife cheated on me 5 years ago? My wife and I have been married for almost 10 years now, and we have 2 children. 5 years ago, I found out my wife had been having an affair with her coworker, which lasted almost a month. The hurt I felt, I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. My wife came clean, quit her job, she was genuinely remorseful, and she even started online therapy. After taking almost a month to think about it, I decided to stick with my family, but only under one condition. I wanted an open relationship. My wife was very hesitant about it, but she ultimately agreed after I told her I would leave her if she didn't. We laid down the ground rules on not bringing anyone home, and to always get tested. After my wife agreed, I called my childhood best friend Leah and told her about my wife cheating on me. Leah and I are best friends for life. We went through some shared trauma when we were children, and we felt that bonded us for life. Leah and I did date for a bit in college, but we broke up shortly after as we felt our friendship was too valuable and that there was the risk of a romantic relationship going south and ending our friendship. After I called Leah, she started calling and FaceTiming me more in the coming weeks and months. And we also started hanging out more and going on lunches and dinners. Leah was single, and I did not try anything outwards, but we did become intimately closer, till one night, Leah invited me to her room, and we had sex. Leah knew about the open relationship agreement I had with my wife, so we felt no guilt having sex. For the past 5 years or so, Leah and I have been having this type of relationship where we go on dinners and dates, and if there's a really romantic mood, we have sex. I was transparent with my wife, and I told her Leah was the only one I'm seeing. My wife too was transparent with me, and said she had slept with a couple of men. She showed me their pics on the dating app, and they were insanely attractive. Tall and muscular, which did not surprise me because my wife also was very attractive, and she probably had matches 1,000s of attractive men. However, my wife said the sex felt empty, and she did not feel anything but remorse after sex. Last night, my wife and I had a serious discussion, and my wife broke down in tears and said she no longer wanted an open relationship and wanted to close the relationship. She said she loved me and only me, and she would never love anyone more than me for as long as she was alive. However, I am conflicted. I do love my wife, but if my wife really loved me like she says, she wouldn't have cheated on me 5 years ago. AITAH. For not wanting to close the relationship?
I think he is not an asshole. What do you guys think? Comment below. Story 2.
Am I the asshole for laughing in my Sill's face when she DNA tested my daughter? I, 30M, have a daughter who's 6. I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for most all of my childhood. We were never involved romantically and were always just friends. She had her daughter at 23 with her 25-year-old husband. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months technically, both her mother and father were killed. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but it was workplace shooting. My friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were both killed. Both my friend and her husband had grown up with less than ideal families and didn't have any siblings, so there wasn't any next of kin for their daughter to go to. However, because I was close with them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been iffy about the idea of kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or around people who didn't have a connection to her bio parents, so I stepped in. My parents and siblings know that my daughter is not my actual daughter biologically speaking. My daughter, I'll call Lily for the post, also knows that she's adopted. I never really hid the fact that she was adopted. She knows her parents are dead and were killed by a bad man, but I'm saving the details for when she's older. Lily does not look like me at all. She looks exactly like her mother and biological dad. Most people assume that I'm her bio dad and that she just took after her mom. I don't ever really correct this when and if people assume this because it just seems unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now. A few weeks ago, we were all meeting up at my parents' house, and my SIL saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, and I explained that was Lily's mother. SCL got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while. I didn't think much of it. To clarify, she knows my friend died, but I guess didn't know that she had been married. Or that Lily is not my bio daughter. I suppose she assumed my daughter was mine and my friend's biological daughter. My SIL got a DNA test done on my daughter behind my back. She used my brother's DNA for the test, and when it came back that they weren't related, she knew that meant me and Lily weren't related. She came up to me with the results and waved them in my face, saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. She said this to me in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting out laughing at this. I told her I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter and that this thing called adoption exists. Her face went red and she stormed off. My brother is mad I embarrassed his fiancée, but I said she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a kid that isn't hers and then parading the results up to me. What did she want me to do? What was her goal with this? Did she want me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother said she thought she was doing the right thing and called me an asshole. I don't feel like the asshole, especially considering my SEL was the one who stuck her nose where it doesn't belong. I'm asking for Reddit opinions, mostly just for validation, so was I the asshole?
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 3.
Am I the asshole for breaking down after my girlfriend suggested an open relationship? I, 34M, am 5'3", and have always been self-conscious about my height. I'm aware that it holds me back in the dating market to some level. I've worked hard my entire life to prove myself and now have a successful career, making more than enough to live comfortably. I've been dating my girlfriend, 26F, for 2 years. She's stunning, charismatic, and confident. Everything I've always wanted in a partner but never thought I'd actually have. Early on, I asked what she saw in me, and her response was vague but sweet. Something about how I'm kind and stable. It was enough for me to believe this was real, but recently, she suggested we try an open relationship. She said she wanted to explore freedom while staying committed emotionally. It hit me like a truck. I asked if she wasn't happy with me or if I wasn't enough. She laughed nervously and said it wasn't about me, just that she feels too young to lock herself down. I tried to hold it together, but I couldn't. I started crying, which I never do, especially in front of her. I told her that it felt like I was just a placeholder, that maybe she was using me for financial security while looking for someone better. She looked shocked and said I was overreacting and being dramatic, that it wasn't about replacing me, just adding more to our dynamic. At that point, I told her if she wanted to explore, she could do it, but not while in a relationship with me. She looked stunned and started to argue, but I told her I needed space and asked her to leave. She's been texting me saying I'm being unfair and making her feel bad for being honest about her needs. So, AITAH, I'm considering breaking up. This hurt me so much, genuinely.
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below.
Story 4.
Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving after my mill told everyone about my miscarriages? 32F. I spent Thanksgiving with my in-laws, and it was one of the most upsetting days of my life. My husband and I have been trying for a baby for around 3 years. Last year, I got pregnant and miscarried twice. It was devastating, and my greatest fear is that I'll never be able to have a child with my husband. In October, I found out I was pregnant for the 3rd time. We were thrilled, but also cautious because of my history with miscarriages. Originally, the plan was to keep it between us until I made it to the 2nd trimester. Unfortunately, I have a well-intentioned yet nosy mother-in-law. We were at dinner one night with my in-laws, and my MEL noticed I wasn't drinking. My MIL asked if I was pregnant, and I'm horrible at hiding my emotions, so my reaction to her question gave it away. I admitted that I was pregnant, but explained that we're very cautious and want to keep it private until I make it to the 2nd trimester. My Phil and Mill said they understood and agreed to keep it between us. Sadly, I miscarried around a week ago and I was crushed. It's been terrible, but I'm trying to stay busy to keep my mind off it. Initially, I wanted to skip Thanksgiving, but I wanted my husband to see his family, and I thought it might lift my spirits to be surrounded by loved ones. I wanted to tell my MIL about the miscarriage in person, since it felt strange talking to her about it over the phone, but she wasn't free to see me this week. My plan was to talk to her the day after Thanksgiving when we could have a moment alone. Almost immediately after we arrived at my in-laws' house, my MIL's sister hugged me and congratulated me on the pregnancy. I was shocked since my MIL agreed not to tell anyone. I considered saying thank you to not draw attention to myself and put a damper on the night, but I couldn't hide my emotions and told her I miscarried. She hugged me and apologized for my loss. A few minutes later, my SIL came over to us and congratulated me. I started tearing up as I explained for the second time that I miscarried. They were both kind, but I was very emotional and frustrated since my in-laws agreed to keep it private, and this was the exact situation I was seeking to avoid. A few minutes after I spoke to my Sael, my Emil pulled me to the side and asked why I didn't tell her about the miscarriage. She said it hurt having to hear the news from her older sister instead of from me directly. I said that I wanted to tell her in person and was planning on telling her in the morning when we had a moment to ourselves. I said I wasn't expecting to be confronted about the pregnancy since she agreed to keep it private. My Miles said she only told her sister and daughter, which was to be expected in the situation since she was so excited. I was furious, but didn't have the energy to argue about it, so I said we should talk about it later and enjoy the holiday. I left my MEL and went to socialize with the other relatives. When it was time to eat, my MIL stood up to give the blessing. She started to talk, but then got emotional and began to cry. She asked the family to keep me in their thoughts and prayers since I recently miscarried. She added that I've miscarried twice before and it's been an emotional experience for everyone. I'd only told my MIL and Phil about the previous miscarriages, so she was once again broadcasting my personal medical information. My MIL started talking directly to me and said she knows I'll get through this and that I'll make an amazing mom someday. I couldn't control my emotions and started sobbing in front of the entire family. I was crying so hard that I was practically choking on my tears and I couldn't catch my breath. My husband was furious and asked his mom why she thought it was appropriate to tell people about my pregnancy and miscarriages. My meal responding by saying she loves us so much and was just very excited to be a grandma. With respect to the miscarries, she said we deserve the family love and support during this difficult time. My husband announced we were leaving, and we left before the turkey was even served. I cried myself to sleep and woke up feeling horrible. This morning, my Emil showed up at my house unannounced. She said she wanted to talk to us about what happened. My husband was still fuming, and I told him to let me speak to his mom privately to avoid another fight. I was still upset about what happened, but I wanted to make peace and was willing to accept her apology since the situation has been hard on everyone. My Mill and I sat down together, and instead of apologizing, she lectured me about how I should have told her about the miscarriage before sharing the news with other relatives. She said it was hard to hear the news from her sister when she was looking forward to a happy Thanksgiving. She was also upset that I dropped this horrible news at dinner and that I should have found a way to tell her before the holiday, even if it was over the phone. She also said that if I was still so emotional over the miscarriage, I shouldn't have come to Thanksgiving and risked upsetting all the guests. She said she knows I'm going through a lot and forgives me, but she wanted to be honest about her feelings. I was floored. I told my MIL that I may have made some mistakes, but all of this could have been avoided if she had followed through on her promise to keep the pregnancy private. I said she owed both my husband and myself an apology. My Mael asked if I would also apologize for making a scene at Thanksgiving. I didn't think I owed her an apology under the circumstances, and I expressed that clearly. She left in tears and said I was lashing out because of the traumatic pregnancies. My husband said I shouldn't apologize and also canceled our Christmas plans with his family. While I think my MIL behaved poorly, part of me wants to apologize to diffuse the situation. I also know that this has been challenging for my ML as well, and we don't always react perfectly in these situations. I also feel badly that I let my emotions get the better of me and put a damper on the evening. AITAH, for how I handled the situation, and for refusing to apologize when my MIL visited our home.
I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below.
Story 5. Am I the asshole for considering ending a 6-year relationship because my fiancé canceled our plans? I, 28F, and my fiancé, 26F, had a disagreement the other day. For Christmas, we got 4 tickets to a stand-up show, so we invited 2 of our friends to come along, made plans, and booked a restaurant before the show. It is now less than 2 weeks until the show, and my fiancé told me that she can no longer go since she's playing a football match that evening. I got upset since it is so close to the date and I don't really have other friends that go well with the ones we invited. I said it felt like she wasn't prioritizing me as this had been planned for 4 months. She got angry at me for being upset and said I didn't understand and then started saying some hurtful things. I decided to let it go. Yesterday we had dinner at her parents' house and I asked her about an upcoming event for my work, also less than a month away. She told me that she wasn't going to go to that, as her cousin had invited her to see their new baby and spend the night. I again got upset and told her she had already said she was going to go and that I had asked to add her to the invitation list. She said that she couldn't go another day to her cousins as she had work and made it out as I was making a big deal out of it. When I kept arguing, said it might make me look bad at work with such short notice, she said something along the lines of, "Fine, I guess I just won't go see my cousin then." I am feeling really defeated, and she has been cranky with me since. I just feel like it is childish that she won't just talk to me. What really broke the camel's back was how she has been short and snappy with me and the 4-year-old boy we foster for a weekend a month. She locked herself away as I gave him a bath. We watched a movie and did bedtime. I feel like if she can act like this not only to me, but also ignore a young child, what does that mean for possible children in our future? Please give me some advice. I'm not sure what to do. I have asked her to talk to a professional, but she doesn't want to. Am I the asshole for considering ending this relationship?
I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Subscribe for more interesting stories.